Fangs and Infernos, our beloved devil, and your beloved vampire continue on this con season. And we are very, very excited to be talking a little bit about this newest con there, my friend, because we are first timers for this con. And it's a cool little story behind it where it was going to happen last year, but the organizers of the con had a family emergency and ended up having to postpone it. But coming up this weekend, as of the recording of this and releasing of this preview, is that Maryland Poppin' Horror Con in Baltimore at the Best Western is happening after its rescheduling. And this was kind of a cool thing there, my friend, that you were on top of. So both of us follow the con. Maryland Poppin' Horror Con is not a new convention. It's been around for a little while. Um, but they apparently wanted people like us. And so we reached out. The way that they requested, hey, reach out to us. We are looking for independent horror podcasters that we want to have involved in the show. And we did, and we got a response. And I remember it vividly. I forget exactly where we were headed, but we were together. We were either going to one of our other conventions or we were going to like a show or something. And, you got the email that, hey, we're in their like top three favorite podcasts, at least based off what was submitted, as people that they wanted to be involved in the con. And even after the reschedule, they still like us, and we are very, very excited to be hosting not just a panel, but we get to host multiple panels. So this is our preview there, Fangs and Infernos, of Vampire and Devil making their way to Maryland Poppin' Horror Con this weekend.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be cool. Like I said, I mean, it's a new convention. It's a new place that we haven't gone to as far as that hotel. I know that the last couple of times that the Maryland Pop and Horror were here, they were at a different hotel before, so this is their first time at this hotel too. And it's gonna be cool. We're gonna see some familiar faces, throughout it. Not even just celebrity wise, but the costume contest is going to have Baltimore Krampus that we've known for a little while. Our good dear friend and our illegitimate child of the Devil, Vampire and Devil podcast, and Kid Dreadful is going to be there too. So that's going to be cool. And like I said, with some of the celebrities, they're going to have, a few of the Scary Movie 6 cast members there and some Vampire and Devil alumni with John Abrams is going to be there, Felissa Rose and Lachlan. Lachlan is going to be there, so it's going to be kind of cool. And like I said, that with that extra, with that, they're throwing in even the guy who played the Art the Clown, parody version in the Scary Six movie. They're gonna have that actor in it, so that's gonna be cool because it's gonna be another, signature that Vampire is gonna get from
Yes.
another Terrifier guy. I mean that will be that will make that would make four people who've played Art the Clown that you've met. Obviously, we've met David Thornton, the Art the Clown. You met, the original OG, Art the Clown from Oh, the I almost said Oh Hollows Inn, but Oh Hollows
All
Eve.
Hallows Eve.
Oh, Hallows Eve, and then obviously we did the con where we got to interview the guy who played the stunt double for Terrifier 3 and the chainsaw scene and all that, and now another one. So that's gonna be really cool. But yeah, when it comes to the panels, yeah, they were asking us, hey man, like we're doing that. I know the con is Saturday and Sunday. We're gonna go and check it out Saturday and go meet some people, maybe go, mingle, go check it out. And then on Sunday we will be doing our panels, which I'm excited about too, because not only is we got to talk to some of these cool people, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute, but the Baltimore comedy, it's a comedy, club that this venue has, and there's been, tons of people who've worked with Adam Sandler have all done that. Charlie Murphy, the late great Charlie Murphy, who was Eddie Murphy's, brother from the Dave Chappelle. Fuck your couch. He's done, stand up there. So I looked at some of the pictures of some of the amazing, comedians who have been on that stage, and I'm like, dude, I get to be on a stage where some of these great comedians have come and done sets for. So that's gonna be really really cool. And like I said, I'm looking forward to some of the cons. We're gonna be starting it off kind of early. I think 11 o'clock, I think it starts our first one, and we're gonna talk to the guy who was one of the guards, the goblin, gargoyle guards that he was on Jabba the Hutt's ship in Return of the
Yes,
Jedi. So that's gonna be really cool. Me being a huge
that's
Star
up your
Wars
alley,
guy.
bro.
So I'm like, that's pretty cool, So we'll talk to him. We get to talk to Lori Beth, who was in, a bunch of Nickelodeon shows. She was in Good Burger, welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. She was in, Dodgeball too.
Dodgeball.
So yeah, so that's gonna be really, really cool. We're gonna get Warren Gillette, who we just recently saw at another con, but from Friday the 13th Part Two, he was Jason when Jason had the burlap sack on his face. So that was gonna be really cool. And the other one that we're gonna do that I'm super, super excited because it's a guy that I've never met before and I'm a huge fan of them is James DeBall. I've been a huge fan of his forever. I'm a huge fan of
So
Independence Day. Obviously, Donnie Darko. He was the rabbit. You know what I mean? The bunny suit. But also he was in a movie that I'm super excited. Generation Doom. And a bunch of other stuff that he's done. So I'm really looking forward to talking to him. I think out of all the ones, I think he's the one that I'm most excited about doing the panel for, just because it's he's got such a cool resume and he's done so many cool projects that that we're fans of, and I think it's gonna be a fun one. I think especially when we talk to him, I have feelings that like it's gonna be kind of like when we just did an interview recently with Edward Furlong and we were talking about brain scan. I think when we mentioned some of these movies, especially like a Generation Doom, because it's one of those
yeah,
obscure cult movies that most people don't know. And it's, even people who do know it, it's a very, if you spoiler or no spoiler, if you haven't seen the movie, it's got a lot of like crazy taboo topics about it. It's almost kind of like, he's got like the scene with threesomes and stuff in it where it's like two guys and a girl. And it's
yeah.
very, way before its time and stuff like that. Very kind of punky, kind of cool movie. But yeah, I mean, just to talk to him about some of the stuff, like I said, some of those movies he did, obviously being in, Donnie Darko and working with Jake and all of them. But also, like I said, in Independence Day, he was the main, crazy guy from freaking, who was trying to warn everybody about the aliens and all that stuff like that. And everybody knows where shit is full from, from Christmas, from the Christmas movie, the
Yep.
vacation. So working with him, it'd be cool to talk to him about, working with such great actors. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the con and stuff like that. Like I said, there's some more other celebrity guests that are really, really cool. Like, they have one of the girls who was in Little Monster. She was only in it for a
Yeah.
couple seconds, but I thought that really, really cool. So that's going to be
I,
awesome. I mean,
I love that
and,
movie, so I'm still kind of contemplating that one.
yeah, I mean, and like they just mentioned just a little bit ago because he was, Maryland Pop and Horror went live and stuff like that. For all you fans out there of like He-Man, if you were into the He-Man comics and the cartoons and stuff like that, they have Tom Cook, who I've met before at a convention. Really cool guy. He was basically like the animator for a lot of Hanna-Barbera. He was Hanna-Barbera, one of Hanna-Barbera's animators and drawers and stuff like that. Really cool guy, man. Some of the if you go and you realize, holy shit, man, this guy is like responsible for the look of so many cartoons, and then you're drawing all these cartoons as a kid. I'm like, dude, it's awesome. So that one's gonna be really, really cool. And like I said, it's just be cool to see some familiar faces and other faces and stuff like that. But I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of vendors are there and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then like I said, I know that they said that it's going to be on two floors, so that's going to be kind of interesting. Where some celebrities are going to be and vendors are going to be on one floor, and some that are going to be on another floor. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an interesting and fun one.
Definitely, Devil. I'm definitely with you on that one, man. I think it's going to be super cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to like contemplating that one. Like, I'm gonna bring it with me because like I love Little Monsters, and you and I talked recently during a review of one of our most recent cons that there was a killer cosplayer as Maurice from Little Monsters, and
Yeah,
so like I'm juggling a little bit. I want to price check a little bit because at the same time some of these, and I'm not saying this about her. I'm just saying this because there are just people that do these cons as actors or actresses that sometimes can be a little bit like greedy, but not, this isn't meant to be a throw under the bus or be judgy, but just a little bit, maybe not quite realizing the demand kind of pricing on some of this kind of stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I did feel that way about the girl who was the original kill in Jaws. I'll admit, especially with Babes Now, and so many people from the original Jaws with, and with Mrs. Van being such a fan, there is not a lot of people still with us, from
Yeah.
for Jaws. So I still feel justified in my feelings of passing that one up, but yes, with her recent passing, there is some buyer's remorse when it comes to that. And you and I have even talked about like just opportunities that we had where maybe there were too many people we were meeting or just not enough funds back at the time. That a buyer's remorse that you and I both share is Angus Scrim. Because not only do we love Phantasm, but everybody and their mother knows me and Subspecies. So like that happens. So there is a small part of me that's, look, it might only have been for a small moment in the scene when the kids are all being accused, of doing, bad things around the house when the little monsters did the bad things. That there is a I am strongly contemplating that. I feel like I do need, you know, I need something on my little monsters. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But
I'm definitely
even with her, I didn't realize that some of the because like she's considered and even in her tagline, she's considered one of the big actors of the '90s scene. I didn't realize that when I looked on her IMDb, and stuff like that. I saw that she had done some TV shows and stuff like that where she was on like like a 7 or 8 seasons and stuff like that. It wasn't I don't remember what the name of the TV show was, but but
yeah.
it's like
It's
something that
definitely
she was.
not just like a riding the little monster's
Yeah,
wave.
yeah. Because I always said that before too. Like even meeting we're huge killer clowns from outer space guys, and I remember like meeting some of the guys who were the guys behind the killer clowns, thing. So it's like you're an actor that you've been in one movie. You're in a killer clown's costume. It's the only thing you've ever done, and you want $40 at the same con that I met Malcolm McDowell at, who wanted
Who's
$40, who's been
who's
in
$40?
9 billion things, and he's been in such huge things. I mean, like I said, not only the stuff that he's done, but us being in Clockwork Orange fans,
Yes.
it's like wait, I can justify paying $40 or more for a a big name like him, but like I
Yeah.
said, it's like you're an actor, and I get it, you know what I mean? Like they don't want to make it too low. That's why when we talk about cons, the one person that not only do I miss just because of the person, and he was just a great guy and just the one of the nicest people you ever meet, which would be Sid Haig. But the
Yes.
fact that he was so affordable, he was $10,
Yep.
and it is, and then if you got a photo op with him and you pay for a photo op, he'll sign that photo op for free. He didn't even
Yeah.
charge you for the photo op. He's like, hey man, you paid for the photo op here. I'll give you a signature on your photo op if you want one for free. So it's
Yeah.
so cool. And he was, $10 for, till he passed away. And it was so
Yeah.
great, you know what I mean? But like I said, I mean, I get it, I mean, it's one of those things like, and like I said, it never, I never really get mad at at the cons for it because it's not anything that they
No.
can do. And even sometimes the actors, it's not 100% them. If they have agents or stuff like that, their agents are the ones who said it, or they got to pay this guy and pay that guy and pay that guy. So you got to do it nowadays. So, yeah, it's way different now because of fans like you and me who go and meet go to these celebrities and other people with the Fangs and Infernos that go to these cons. You know, eons ago when you used to go to cons, I mean, it was literally a game where you would pay to get into the con and you get to meet these people for free. But that's
Yeah.
because, once eBay came around and everybody started making money, which is understandable. It's like if I'm a celebrity and I'm giving you my autograph and then you're going around and slinging it on eBay for $100, $200, $300, I'm like, well, why the hell am I doing this for free? This guy getting this autograph for free and he's selling it for $300. He's making money. Shit, I should be making money then. Now I'm going to start charging. And like I said, and as the years go by, obviously more things get expensive, just like everything. Price of
Absolutely.
eggs, gas and milk. The gallon of milk, gasoline, and all that goes up. Everything else goes up. I mean, I remember before. $20 was like your minimum, and you had your $30 one. You had a person that was $30. You're like, oh my God, they're $30, and you saw nobody in their line because it was like, oh my God, that's way too expensive. Now it's like now the $30 and the $40 is your average now. You know what I mean? And as of this recording, that they I don't remember. I don't remember exactly what the con is, but they just announced that like Kurt Russell is doing that, and you basically got to get a loan to basically get anything signed from him. I'm a huge Mark Hamill fan, and yes, I would love to pay that money, but he's way big. I know Nicolas Cage just recently did one, and he's a good penny. So it's like, yeah, I get it. You're gonna go and you're gonna do that stuff. That's why I like going to these people, man. It's cool because some of them are really really awesome. Like someone like Felissa, what I mean? You pay $40 to meet her, which is awesome. And she takes like 9 million pictures with you. She gives you hugs and kisses. She may be
Yeah.
just drinking cranberry juice. We're not 100% sure. It's speculation.
And
But
nothing more.
anyway, like I said, it's cool. And some of these people like that, what I mean, you get, you know, you get that experience with them, and it's awesome. Like a lot of times I do these guests, what I mean? You can tell like the ones who are truly into meeting their fans and stuff like that, and it's been really cool because Maryland Pop and Horror throughout the time, if you got the time to check it out and you are going or you're kind of on the fence, go on their Facebook page. They've been
Yep.
posting little videos and stuff of the celebrities getting excited about coming and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's I like that. I like seeing like the videos of like them saying, "Hey, we're gonna ready to come here. We're gonna meet you. Come and meet me. I don't want to be like the one girl was like, come and meet me. I don't want to be bored and eat all my snacks. I'll share my snacks with you." And stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it's always really cool. Like I said, I'm interested in seeing that, seeing these guests. It's different, and I like the fact that it's kind of like a the Maryland Pop and Horror. It's got that little bit of, you like I said, you can meet some scary people. You can meet, Jason from Part Two, but now you're gonna meet some Nickelodeon kids and
Right.
shit like that. So it's so cool. It's such a cool, interesting thing, especially when like I said, when it comes to the panels that we're doing. I mean, like I said, we're gonna be talking Star Wars, then like Nickelodeon Good Burger, then talking, Independence Day and aliens, and then going and talking about machete kills and shit like that. So it's like it's so
Yes.
cool. I love that little I love whenever cons do that where it's a good mixture of like comic book people or anime people or musicians or horror people and stuff like that. I mean, of course, us being horror fans, we particularly like meeting all our horror actors and actresses and stuff like that. But I mean, like I said, I mean, yes, horror is my favorite of all the genres of movies, but also I love comedies. I love action movies. I love that kind of stuff. So it's cool meeting different people and stuff like that. And you have some interesting, you get to meet some interesting people and stuff like that. And I like it when it's like a good mix of all kinds of different movies and stuff like that. And yes, at cons there's going to be people there that that you're super excited about or somebody else is not super excited about, you know what I mean? But you go like, oh man, why did they get this guest here? Or why is that guest here? Hey, maybe this person was in, I'm just gonna say like a Nicky and Degrassi. Maybe they were in Degrassi and you're really huge into that thing. Hey man,
Exactly.
that's cool. I mean, we've gone to cons before where they had the Goosebumps cast. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I'm like, and they've had them, or they had the Halloween Town one. I'm like, I could care less about Halloween Town. I watched it and we did a review about it, but I mean, but it's not going to take away from people who are hardcore Halloween Town fans. You know what I mean? It's cool that they get to meet those people. So it's always cool. I don't, I never, judge. Even though I may snirk at people because once in a while, especially like anime people, I'm like, anime dorks, but. But hey man, I can't really say much, especially because the fact that I'm calling these anime people dorks and I'm over here running around trying to find Star Wars, characters and stuff like that. So we all have our fandoms, we all have our, our tropes and stuff that we love to see and stuff like that. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I love that this one is kind of has that mix of like everything you want to see. So I'm looking forward to it because, like I said, with a horror cons, you usually see that, but with this, even with the cosplay, you're going to see a lot of cosplay. You're going to see that comic book cosplay. You're going to see the anime cosplay. You're going to see these people dressed up in horror costumes, and I think that's cool. I like that mixture of stuff like that, where you go to a straight up anime concert, to a con that's straight up anime, and you dress up like Jason. You're going to probably have some people looking at you like, why the hell is this guy, doing that? But I think that's fun. That'd be probably me. I'd go to a furry convention and dress up like He-Man or some shit like that and be like, why is this guy dressed up like He-Man? You're supposed to be wearing more clothes, not less clothes.
Yeah, but you'd have that furry, leotard, them
Yeah,
furry
yeah,
boots
I got the
on
loin,
there,
I got the furry loins, so I'm good to go.
furry loins. No, absolutely, Devil. But also shout out to Maryland Pop and HorrorCon for honestly being the first con that's kind of striking while the iron's hot on Scary Movie 6, like for having kind of a reunion thing with like four people there, which is really,
Yeah.
really cool. So I think that's super duper awesome. Because even just, yeah, you had mentioned to the Fangs and Infernos about, V&D alumni. And it's really, really cool because, like, for example, I know both of us are excited, but I'm also really excited to see Lachlan again because, like, and it's kind of funny that kind of like the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing because like we've always been fans of Felissa, and she's since become a very good friend, and we're interviewing her, and it went great, and then you know, she goes over and basically whores us out to Lachlan Monroe at a previous con, being like, "Hey, I had a blast on these guys' show. You should do this guy's show. It's such a fun time." And sure enough, we go and circle back around at a later con, and he is down for the cause, and he has such a good time, and we really enjoyed talking to him. And the one thing that was super fun is, of course, like everybody knows, if a guest that I've wanted to get an autograph of is in any kind of a vampire movie, that's what I'm going to want them to sign first, and then I will circle back around to other things. And there's exceptions to that where there might be something that I'm so dedicated to that's very important in my life that depending on their price, maybe I have to circle around later. But, you know, most of the time it's always going to be that first vampire thing. And Lachlan signed, my Wes Craven vampire collection because he was in Dracula 2000. But I've always just remembered so vividly, and I've said this to you multiple times. I was like, when we did that interview, it was very much like when we were talking to Edward Furlong about Brain Scan, and you mentioned Primus, and he just lit up and he got so excited. He was like, "Oh my God, yeah, Primus, and they're so awesome, and I love that, and I love their music." We were talking about, his Lachlan's catalog, and I'm a big fan of the movie Totally Killer, so I wanted him to talk about it. And man, he just lit up about what a great time he had with that movie. That I'm literally like, fuck, I have to go back the next time I see him, which turns out now to be at Maryland Pop and Horror. But I'm like, the next time I get to meet Lachlan Monroe, I have to bring my Totally Killer DVD. Like he was so enthusiastic, and I love that movie all anyway, that I gotta get him again. Like he'll enjoy signing this because he's so awesome. He loves signing Scary Movie. And we talked to him about Dead Man on Campus, and and he was great at about signing Dracula 2000, and he has a fantastic catalog. And he's a big hockey guy. Shout out to the fact that the Stanley Cup finals are going on right now because you and I are hockey people. And so that's just kind of a cool thing as well, where it's like when you realize that you find a way to trigger a guest in a good way, even off something like super minimal. Edward with, Primus, just
Yeah.
another movie in Lachlan's catalog, but that one that he got way into and was like, I genuinely had a blast doing this movie. So anyway, that's going to be very, very cool. But yeah, no, shout out to Maryland Pop and HorrorCon for having the first, pretty much first official Scary Movie 6 reunion. So that's super duper awesome. And I'm definitely with you on the vendors there, my friend. I think it's going to be cool to see who they brought in. I haven't done any research. If Maryland Pop and Horror have posted who the vendors are, which I wouldn't be surprised if they've been posted or on the website because it's very common for there to be a vendors listing. I haven't done any research on it. I've decided, as of only a few days out, I'm just going to leave it that way. I want to be excited. I want to be surprised. So I'm not going to do any sleuthing on the vendors. I'm just looking forward to us going and checking it out and scoping out the venue on Saturday and seeing where things are at and where we need to be and getting a little bit of finalization. I mean, we know our schedule for the panels. We know that we have, I mean, because the fact of the matter is you and I have 4 hours worth of panels. So shout out, like, so for real, really shout out to Maryland Pop and HorrorCon for trusting us with such a genuine and generous chunk of their panels over a long period of time. Because it's not like they set us up with, one here, maybe three here, two there, all spread out. We are their guys for 4 hours of this con. Of course, depending on the length that we're allotted for these interviews. I'm sure they don't want us to run for 45 minutes, per one, but it's a very cool and humbling experience and feeling to be trusted with not only multiple panels but also in a row. So that's going to be really, really
Yeah.
exciting when it comes to that. But
Yeah.
absolutely, man, this weekend, June 13th and 14th at the Best Western in Baltimore for Maryland Pop and HorrorCon. Devil, my friend, it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be cool. And like I said, like I said, they just came out and did a little live today,
Yep.
they said that there will be alcoholic beverages to
I
buy.
saw that too.
So I was like, hell yeah, you know what I mean? I'm gonna be sipping on some syrup while we're talking. Not too much because I don't want to. By the time we get to the last one with Warrington, I don't want to be. Hey, how you doing, buddy? You know what I mean? Gotta keep it somewhat professional, but
Killer, mommy.
I'm gonna be like, hey, are you the cha cha guy? Or something like that. Who knows what's going to go on? But yeah, it's gonna be great fun. I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, and seeing some new faces and stuff like that. Seeing some old faces, like you said, talking about earlier with the when we talked about I liked it whenever we were talking to John Abrams. We talked
Yes.
about my huge love of being in a kids movie. I love that kids movie. But I remember he like even lit up when we talked about Meet the Fockers and stuff like that, and him being in
Yeah.
that movie and stuff like that. So it's cool. I love doing this and stuff like that. I love, when you get to talk about that. So it's gonna be fun, talking to when we do these panels and stuff like that. And like I said, depending on, like I said, what how we do it and how they want us to do it and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to, maybe some the fan questions and stuff like that if we do all that, because I always like when people ask people questions, and it's always funny, like sometimes you get to get these actors that will tell some funny ones. I remember at panels you never know exactly what's gonna happen. I remember seeing one recently where it was John Cena, and they asked him if he had what would if he had a what if he had one meal would be his last meal, what would be his last meal, and he basically said his wife would be his last meal.
That's
And
an
he was like
amazing
he was like
answer.
and he was like because it was at like a Comic-Con or something like that, so there's like kids all over. He's like, scratch that question. Answer. Like I probably shouldn't have said that because now the kids are gonna be like, "What does that mean?"
What does
So I
that
mean,
mean,
if you
mommy?
never know, what you're gonna, what you're gonna say. You never know what's gonna do. Like that. And like I said, we'll talk to these, celebrities. Like I said, even when we talk to James, we'll talk about this movie or that movie. Maybe there's a movie on his, resume, or even like when we talk to Lori Beth and stuff like that. There's movies on her resume that somebody in the audience is like, oh my God, I'm the biggest fan of this movie or that movie. And it may be a big movie, but it might be an obscure movie that like, holy crap, you and two other people are the only people who probably have ever seen this movie ever. So, it's always interesting to see, what things you light up some actors or some when you talk about their careers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's gonna be cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the array of vendors and stuff like that. Because, like I said, you're going to be able to get everything. So I'm assuming we're probably going to be throwing down big, big bucks because I know more than likely there's probably going to be a lot of Rhea Ripley and Harley Quinn shit that we're probably going to have to buy for Miss Vamp, and there'll probably be a whole bunch of Stranger Thing Eddie Munson and Rob Zombie ish kind of stuff that I'll have to buy for Miss Devil. So there's probably going to be lot of purchasing and stuff like that, which is always good. But yeah, it's always fun. You know what I mean? I look forward to, like I said, I look forward to that. Look forward to seeing the Baltimore Krampus again.
Yes.
That guy's really cool. That dude's insane. I don't, I, you know, with the with the recording of this episode, it's basically like in the 80s and the 90s right now in Baltimore, and that guy wears like a full on freaking Krampus outfit that's like got like 700 layers of fur and shit on it.
Right.
I don't know how he does that. I wear sweatpants and a t-shirt and I'm almost capped out. You'll see me more than likely wearing shorts, not sweatpants, because I will die. So it's yeah. As much as the devil loves fire, he's not a big heat guy. He doesn't like being hot and sweaty. Swamp ass is a real thing. So, and as a tip for, we always tell with cons, and I don't think we've ever mentioned this at the cons, but it's always mentioned at cons on Facebook and stuff like that. Remember to wear your deodorant, because if you can smell you, everybody else can smell you too. And that doesn't mean I'm not really poking fun at people and stuff like that. I understand, some of us are a little bit skinnier, some of us are a little bit heavier, and we sweat, especially when it comes to this Baltimore heat. Try to spray as much as you can, because like I said, you want to meet these people, and
Yeah.
Felissa, like I said, she's a big hugger. She's a lovely person. She's gonna want to hug you, but if you stink, she's still gonna hug you. She's still gonna act like that. But do
But
you
you're
really
only going to
want
get one.
do you when you walk away, do you really want someone who is as sweet as Melissa to be like, oh my God, that guy stunk? Don't want to be the stinker guy. Don't be the stinker. Make sure to, spray extra, bring some with
Bring them
you,
smelly goods.
bring those smelly goods, buy some smelly goods. And maybe there's some vendors that have some smelly goods there, or you never know. So yeah, we don't talk about that very often, but it's always something that people talk about on the socials all the time. People like not wearing deodorant, at these things and stuff like that. So, come have fun. We're all here for a good time. We're all here to, you know, we could poke fun at people. Like I said, you can be like, haha, look at that, anime geeks or something like that. But it's all in good and fun. I don't truly mean any harm to any of those people. And like I said, it's all good. They may look at me and be like, look at that guy who likes Star Wars and on horror movies and decapitations, and he likes burning people. But that's for another story. But you never know what's going to happen, and I'm looking forward to that. So like I said, come and check us out. We'll be there, and we'll be doing panels, and we'll be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So come and meet us. We try not to bite too hard, and if we do, we try to get our consent and stuff like that. And as a parting joke, speaking of consent, I just saw a funny thing that somebody said about it, and I'm gonna pose this question to you, Vampire. And as we get ready to wrap this up, we were wondering why vampires don't, out of all the professionals and professions and stuff like that, why vampires don't go into the financing and building games, because then you own the houses and you don't need permission to enter.
Ooh, that's a good one. I love me a good devilish dad joke.
I seen that. I was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Why don't vampires get in that profession? Because then you own the house. You're financing. Why aren't you you're financing the house. So the person who's living in that house right now technically doesn't own the house. They are financing through you, and you don't need their permission to enter.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be a good one. So, definitely come out. I mean, we did, so many great celebs to meet. I mean, we didn't even talk about, Sean Roberts for all of you
Oh
like
yeah,
Resident
Sean Roberts.
Evil
Oh yeah,
fans,
yeah. Land of the Dead,
Land of the
Resident
Dead.
Evil.
So like that's gonna be a good one too. But like such a great time. We're definitely really stoked about it. Natanya Ross is the Little Monsters,
Little Monsters. Yeah.
the actress that we were talking about. So that's gonna be such a great one. But of course, you know, our beloved V&D alumni, which is funny because before we set up this, I had actually looked at it and they've got when you go to the celebs page on the Maryland Pop and Horror website, the top first three names are the V&D alumni. So it's just a match made in heaven. It's just so apropos, and it was always just going to be that way because it's literally Lachlan, John, and Felissa, just the top three names just in a row. And I was like, that's awesome. But also, they've got, Mackenzie Rossman is going to be there, and that's going to be really, really awesome. And we talked about Tom Cook and, of course, Lori Beth Denberg. And it's just definitely going to be a really, really good time. So, Fangs and Infernos come out this weekend, June 13th and 14th, Saturday and Sunday at the Best Western in Baltimore for Maryland Pop and Horror Con to not only just have a great time, do a little bit of shopping, meet these celebrities from your childhood or your present and the movies that you're into. And again, shout out to Maryland Pop and Horror Con for having us out, trusting us with a good chunk of their panels. We're really, really excited to do a killer job and put together a really bitchin' product for them. But also just have a good time for ourselves as well. Support vendors because that's incredibly important as well. Devil and I have vendors that we work with, people that look out for the stuff that we sell, which we'll get into shortly. So we understand the livelihood, just the little bit of what can help buying a t-shirt, buying a comic book, buying a necklace. Really, really cool. So we're definitely very excited to be checking out the vendors and checking out just everybody that's going to be there this weekend. So come out, have a great time, bring the family, bring friends. Let's really make this rock and let's really have a great turnout for Maryland Pop and Horror Con, who have been so generous with their time setting up such a great event. And Devil and I, like I said, are just very fortunate that we were chosen and trusted to be a part of this event. So it's going to be a really, really great time had by all. Again, this weekend, June 13th and 14th, it's going to be a really, really good time. And again, when it does come to those vendors, we really appreciate Mark and Lizzie at rockandhorror.com. They are our merch store. Go to the Vampire and Devil collab for everything that Devil and I sell for merch. And also, it's important to follow their socials as well as our socials. But their socials also include all of the deals, all of the sales, the various discount codes that they have. And those discount codes do apply in the Vampire and Devil merch store. Also, shout out, of course, to John Kozik with the Salem Vampire Museum. Ooh, I might have to talk to John about that one. The Salem Witchboard Museum and the Witchboard Museum of Baltimore. Of course, our buddy Chris with the Buffalo Bill House in Perryopolis, Pennsylvania. Brutalities, we love them to death. They've always been incredibly supportive, and we really, really love them. And of course, Chris and Sarah with Twisted Vines, who do so much. Speaking of vendors, and they are vendor people that do events and go out and travel with their Twisted Vines horror decor with everything that they do. But that's going to be it for us for this preview of this weekend's Maryland Pop and Horror Con at the Best Western in Baltimore. See you in a few days there, Fangs and Infernos. It's going to be an absolute great one, and we're really looking forward to all of us having a great time. Horns up. Fangs out.